Good evening. It's been an amazing 5-year celebration with our incredible speaker series this week. There have been some amazing moments, like when Philip said, ahimsa, nonviolence to any living being. Now, that's a beautiful word, not because it describes a nationality, a politics, a religion, a diet, or a lifestyle, but because it describes our character. It says we reject violence wherever and whenever it arises, in our streets, our homes, our thoughts, our hearts, and our dining tables. Thank you, Philip. Our perception of reality is based upon what we see and don't see. Erica Sotos, thank you for clearly demonstrating that with your magical talent. Every individual, human and non-human, matters because we are alive. Thank you, Mark. Words that resonate in our hearts. Last night, Duja powerfully conveyed the importance of how we are each responsible for what we see. There are many unfair practices around. We need to take up the responsibility and we need to act. Alexis shared the power of stories of our residents like Marley and how those help people connect to others not like ourselves. Tonight's speaker is Kevin Wanzer. Kevin and his husband Matthew are two of my closest friends. Since 1983, Kevin has spoken in front of well over 3,000 audiences all over the world, including 49 states, Canada, China, Europe, and Singapore. He has been noted nationally as one of the most effective and entertaining speakers for corporations, organizations, schools, colleges, and audiences of adults who work with and empower the lives of youth. His program encourages audiences to discover their hidden passions, embrace diversity, and celebrate the laughter in us all. It was Kevin's celebration of laughter that profoundly gave my late husband Matt and I such great joy when he and his husband Matthew came to visit. My husband Matt lived with ALS for 20 years. Kevin will speak briefly about Matt's story tonight. At first, I was apprehensive about sharing something so personal about my life with you. But stories are meant to be shared. And we are here, but such a brief time to make a difference. And as Duja said, we need to act. So what do human stories have to do with non-human stories? As Philip eloquently said, change only the name, and my story is also about you. Matt could not verbally speak, so communication took so much time and so much patience. It was with only those who had the patience to be with him, not distracted like Duja spoke of, that truly benefited from his wisdom and love of life. It is the same for non-humans. They clearly communicate their stories if we are willing to be present with them, if we have an open heart, and if we're willing to hear and to see. We know how much they treasure their lives, and we know they suffer, and we know they love their children, which can be clearly seen in the documentary Baby Hers. Non-humans have so much to teach us. What we do to them, we do to ourselves. We must choose to connect with each other, humans and non-humans, to create a more compassionate world. COVID-19 has changed our reach at Love and Arms to a global reach. Many of us now are working remotely. I was fortunate enough for the past 12 years as executive director of a statewide educational program to work remotely because of my husband's illness. So taking our programs virtual at Love and Arms was a natural progression. We will connect people both in person and virtually from here on out. Please join us in creating a more compassionate world through our educational initiative. We need your help to expand our educational programming, increase your investment in compassion. Every dollar you donate will be doubled. Please help us reach our goal. Register for the gala and invest in compassion. Blue, come. Now you are in for a special treat. Yes, you are in for a special treat. Have a seat. There you go. Kevin Wanzer has been noted nationally as one of the most effective and entertaining speakers for inspiring and empowering audiences. He helps people reconnect with hidden passions, embrace diversity, and celebrate community through laughter. Kevin, we welcome you to Luvin Arms.
All right, Kevin, we're ready to start.
I've got something special for you. Huh? You have something to ask me?
All right, tell me about your ninja disguise. Okay.
Everybody was kung fu fighting.
All right. Kevin, come on. You have to put something else on. You need to look professional.
I got the perfect thing. How about this?
No.
Tigers!
Kevin.
How can they not like tigers?
Be professional.
Can I wear this shirt? This has me written all over it. Come on! That's good. That's comedy.
What?
I thought we were supposed to wear masks.
Oh, God.
Safety first, social distance.
All right, you want professional? Here. I'm wearing this beautiful neck garment.
Kevin, you need to do better than that. You know what I'm asking you. Will you just please?
Okay, let me, before you say anything, let me show you something. This is going to be a competition, okay? Are you watching? Are you paying attention? Matthew, are you paying attention?
Yeah.
See how they're equal?
Yep.
The big and the little. I'm going to roll up the big part, and I'm going to roll up the little part. And I'm going to drop them at the same time. So it's going to be a race, and all you have to do is predict which one you think is going to win, the big or the little. Okay, are you paying attention?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. It's a tie! Thank you!
All right, you ready? Kevin.
What?
Kevin.
Who doesn't love puppies?
Kevin,
What?
let's put the dog down.
We're not going to put the dog down. No, I don't want to be put down.
No. Just put that dog down on the floor.
Okay, I put that dog down, but I'm picking up this dog. Oh, who doesn't love a good dog?
Will you please just take this seriously?
Okay, let me regroup. Okay.
Oh, God.
What? What's wrong?
That is not a good look.
It's a good look for me. I like it. Although I think this is coming off. Hey, I wonder what the retail cost is. Retail? Tail? Retail? See what I did there?
Got it.
Ow!
Got it. Yes, I get it. Kevin.
What? You said come right away.
What?
I'm having trouble making up my mind. I'm sorry that I gave you such a hard time. Can we make up? What?
Can we get started?
Okay, but can I just show them a few fun things first?
Whatever it takes, go for
Okay,
it.
you know how you've been through drive-thru McDonald's where you really can't understand what they're saying because the speaker's kind of broken and messed up and muffled? Next time you go through drive-thru, get yourselves one of these, a kazoo, and keep it with you just in case, and it works every time. When they say, "Welcome to McDonald's, can I take your order?" You talk to the back. The scary thing is they actually can understand you, which is really disturbing. But if you do that, you have to do that at the drive-thru. It's only funny at the drive-thru. I told my friend about it one time. He got confused. He tried that at the counter. They're like, "What's wrong with you?" Or actually, I got this on Amazon. My favorite thing ever. This is called a magician's blindfold. This is a blindfold that looks like a blindfold, but it's not. You can totally see through this thing perfectly fine. Like, I'll prove I can see through it. I'll tell you how many fingers I'm holding up. 7. Thank you. And so I wear this thing around all the time. I'm telling you right now, I have never had more fun driving in my entire life. Hello, officer. Or finally, try this out. Go to a grocery store sometime and buy one thing. Buy one grape. Put one grape in your cart, wheel it around the store, get in the express checkout line because you qualify, and take the grape, put it in the conveyor belt, watch it roll down, and if you don't laugh, they don't know what to do. They have to take you seriously because 1, you're the customer, but 2, they can't tell by looking if something's not right. I did this one time. The cashier tried to scan the grape. Or actually, if you really want to have a good time, check out this hashtag. You will not believe the number of people that have actually bought one grape and put it online, social media, and they all have restraining orders.
Can we start now?
Let's start. Where do we start?
Hi, I'm Kevin Wanzer, and I really appreciate the invitation to be part of such a great celebration for an incredible sanctuary. I had the chance to visit Loving Arms not too long ago. I met all the residents, got to know them on a very intimate, well, not an intimate level, but a very personal level. I really enjoyed myself there, and I'm really happy I can help out today by sharing my program, Choose to Love, Choose Compassion. I adopted my child when they were really little. Look at those pictures. Isn't that cute? That's not them, but that's a cute kid. I did Google cute kid and that came up. Actually, this is my child. This is Scout. Scout came to live with me at 5 years old, and I had never been a parent before, so I had no idea what to do. And when she first came to live with us, there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of rage because of the experience she had in her life before she met us. And so I needed a way to connect with her. I needed a way to show compassion and empathy and love and connection. And I found out really early on that she loved vacuum cleaners. Now, let me make this clear. She didn't like vacuum cleaners. She loved vacuum cleaners. Anytime we were having a tough day, we would just vacuum. She wanted to go to every state in the country and vacuum in every state. This is where she wanted to go for spring break. This is a real place. This is the Vacuum Cleaner Museum and Hall of Fame. Are you kidding? Their slogan is, "Our museum really sucks," and they are right. And so I used to be a normal person. I used to at one time in my life have one vacuum, but there was a time where I had countless vacuums because a lot of my friends thought it was hilarious to continue to give her vacuums. The reason I'm sharing this is because this is a story of compassion. This is a story of connection. Until I discovered what she loved, I was not able to connect in a way that was really authentic. So as soon as I took the time to discover what she loved, it built our connection in a way unlike any other. Fast forward about a year, after Scout came to live with us as a foster child, we finally adopted her. One of the greatest days of our lives. And as a celebration, we went to Disney, and I got her the autograph book, because that's what my parents did, so of course that's what I'm going to do for Scout. And we're in line for Buzz Lightyear's autograph. I assumed that Scout had seen Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story, but she never had. And so we're in line. Scout's jumping up and down. "Scout, you seem really happy right now." "Dad, I've never been on a ride before. This is going to be my first ride." I said, "Oh no, honey, we're not in line for a ride right now. We're in line for that guy's autograph." And Scout looks at me and says, "Dad, are you serious?" "Yeah, what does that mean?" "Well, he's going to write his name in your book." "Dad, do we really have to wait in this hot sun in this line just so that guy can write his name in my book? And I was like, "Yeah, honey, that's how it works." And then she stops and goes, "Dad, do you know how to write his name?" I said, "Yes, I do." "Well, can you write his name in my book and we can get out of here?" "Absolutely." I write Buzz and we get out of there. That day for lunch, "Scout, where do you want to go for lunch?" She wants to go to Cinderella's castle. She loves the idea that Cinderella had a really tough childhood and things turned out to be okay, kind of a metaphor to her life. And so we go to the restaurant, we sit down, and the waitress walks up. And the first thing she says is not, "Can I take your drink order? Would you like an appetizer?" Nope, she totally focuses on Scout. She uses Scout's name in conversation. She makes eye contact. She expressed true compassion, and she asked Scout, "Scout, I want you to think really hard and then tell me, what's the number one thing that you love more than anything else in the whole wide world?" And I sat across the table. I could not believe she just asked that question. Scout looks at me. "Dad, should I tell her?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." Scout looks at her and says, "I love vacuum cleaners." The waitress looks back. "Scout, I need a new vacuum." "You need a Dyson." And they start talking about vacuums. They're going back and forth. I'd seen Scout happy before, but I never saw her that happy because of someone like this total stranger, this waitress that just took the time to connect, to express compassion and love, and allow Scout to feel the joy that was within. Scout looks at her. "I want to vacuum in every state in the country. Honey, have you ever vacuumed in Florida before?" "No, I have not. Will you come with me?" And she takes Scout by the hand and they go through a door. I'm like, "Oh, that's really cute." Till I realize she's just been abducted by a lady at Walt Disney World. About 10 minutes go by, the door to the kitchen opens up and Scout walks back in the dining room. Scout has on a tiara and in her right hand she has a vacuum. And she yells at me across the restaurant, "Dad, I'm vacuuming in Cinderella's castle. I'm the wicked stepsister." She vacuumed the entire restaurant. 45 minutes later, she comes and sits down. "Dad, this is the greatest ride at Walt Disney World." I'm like, Scout, this is not a ride. Oh, yes, it is a ride, and it's the greatest ride at Walt Disney World. And Scout told me all about it. Scout told me about the vacuum. She told me about the bag. She told me about the extension cord. She told me, oh, this is my favorite. She goes, Dad, there's a mystery stain at table 36, and I can't do anything about it. But Amber's going to be here at 3:30, and she's going to clean it up because she took the magic detergent home last night, and Antonio told her not to. What are you talking about? At the end of the meal, we get up to go, and Scout tracks down the lady to say goodbye. And I watch, and they're talking to each other. They give each other a hug. Scout comes back. Honey, I think it's really great that you went to say goodbye. Dad, I went to say thank you to her. Oh, even better, honey. Most people never take the time to say thank you to someone that just made a difference in their life. And she goes, Dad, I want to show you something. And we sit back down at the table, and Scout starts flipping through the autograph book, and she stops at a blank page, and she pushes it to me, and she goes, Dad, look. And I said, what am I looking at? And she said, turn the page. And I turned the page, and I saw it, and I looked at Scout's face, and Scout lights up. I got her autograph. And the lady did not just sign her name. The lady signed, Scout, take the time to discover who you truly are and what you truly love, and follow those two things for as long as you're alive. And I looked at it, and I said, Scout, those are beautiful, compassionate words. Congratulations. I don't know what to say. Let's go to the park now. Let's get the character autographs. And Scout grabs both my hands and looks at me and goes, Dad, I'm going to tell you something, and I hope you don't cry. I'm like, oh my gosh. Dad, the characters are fake. But this lady is real. And she really made me feel good. And she is the only autograph that I want. That's you. You have a sense of caring. You have a sense of love. You have a sense of compassion, or you wouldn't be involved with Love and Arms to begin with. Scout loves vacuums. I love dogs. I love dogs. To me, dogs are angels. My favorite dog is any dog that's in front of me right now. Every dog is my favorite dog. This is my dog, Dreyfus. He's a little different than other dogs. I'll talk about him in a second. This is my other dog, Corky, that I raised, that I adopted from a home where he was really hurt. You can tell by looking at his eyes. He was really a sad dog when he first came to live with me. His tail was always tucked between his legs because the dog does not know how to pretend. You can't take a dog that's sad and teach it to pretend to be happy. A dog acts the way that it feels. And as soon as he came into the home and started living with Dreyfus and they became friends, his tail started to wag. Whenever Dreyfus was around Corky, his tail would wag. Here's how Dreyfus is different than other dogs. You can tell. His back left leg is missing. Now, he doesn't know he knows it's missing, but he really believes that he's normal and four-legged dogs are not. Because he used to go up to Corky and gently nibble on Corky's back left leg. And I honestly believe he was trying to remove his leg. I honestly believe he felt bad for Corky because Corky had to carry around an extra appendage that obviously didn't need because Dreyfus didn't need it. So what's the big deal? For those of you that have dogs, you ever seen your dog sleep and they're dreaming and their paws start moving like they're going through some enchanted rawhide forest? And so when Corky used to sleep, I used to whisper into his ears, Dreyfus loves you. And every time I'd say Dreyfus loves you, his tail started to twitch in his dreams. And the other great thing about his leg being gone is how kids react. Some kids don't know the leg's gone. Some kids know the leg's gone. They just don't know it's different till you teach them it's different. My niece Anna, when she was little, Anna, how is Dreyfus different than other dogs? Well, he really loves cat food. I'm like, all right, what about his leg being gone? Isn't that different? No, because Dreyfus is a three-legged dog. And three-legged dogs are only supposed to have 3 legs. Which is true. A 3-legged dog has 3 legs. That's normal. If you ever see a 3-legged dog that has 4 legs, that's a little different. Not as different as Peppa Pig, but, different. I used to think Dreyfus was a real hero of mine because he was different and he had 3 legs and he didn't care. Until one time I met this dog. This is Faith. As you can see, Faith was born with 2 legs. This lady taught Faith to stand up and walk around like a person. I'd never seen anything like it before. I love Faith so much. She's going to start running in a second. I love this so much. So Faith became my hero until I met this horse. No, I'm just kidding. That's not a real. Dreyfus and Corky loved each other. And because of Dreyfus's love, of Dreyfus's compassion towards Corky, Corky was able to be the dog that he was meant to be, the joyful dog that he was meant to be. In Hawaii, they have a traditional belief that when we're born, we have a bowl of light inside of us called mana. Mana represents authenticity. It represents who we are. It means power. And when we're born, that light naturally shines. And every time something negative happens to us, every time we're hurt or put down or disrespected or abused, little tiny pebbles start filling up that bowl of light. If you have a bowl of light with enough pebbles in it, It's going to appear that the light is suffocated and extinguished, but in truth, the light never goes anywhere. It just can't break through all the negativity. When something negative happens to us, we have a choice as to how we look at it. We take the pebbles, we learn the lesson, we release it, and we allow that light to shine. You don't ask yourself, why did this happen to me? You ask yourself, why did this happen for me? How can I use this pebble as an opportunity to grow stronger? One of my closest friends was Matt White. I met him when I was in college at Butler University. This is a picture of Matt and me in college, and this is a picture of us at graduation. I wore this on my head so my dad could find me in the crowd. And that's the day I met Mr. State Trooper. Matt and I bought a house in Indianapolis when we graduated from Butler because the banks wouldn't lend money to someone like me. So I had to find someone with a real job to get a mortgage. And while we lived there, we loved to play Frisbee golf around the neighborhood. We played Frisbee golf 4 or 5 nights out of the week, and we had a great time playing up and down the street. And there was a guy who lived a few houses down who was really unhappy that we were outside playing Frisbee at night. We weren't disruptive, we were just playing outside at midnight. Every night he'd come out and yell at us and threaten, "I'm going to kill your parents." Of course, we were 22 years old, but he didn't realize that. It was kind of surreal. So we noticed that this guy had the same type of television that Matt and I had. And it was up against the wall in his house. And he had faced a bay window that looked onto the street. We thought, I wonder if this idea would work. So we took our remote control from our television. We went down one night while he was watching TV, and we stood outside on the sidewalk, and we started flipping through the channels on his television. And sure enough, the channels started changing, and he was losing his mind. And he called his wife in to show her, and she comes in there, and we stop. We don't change channels anymore. And the wife starts screaming, "Take your medicine!" And then eventually she leaves, and we start changing the channels again. And this guy doesn't know what to do. He's out of his mind. So finally, he turns off the TV. He goes upstairs. We wait for the bedroom light to go out. As soon as it goes out, we turn back on the TV. We hit the volume. Volume goes all the way up. He comes downstairs. He unplugs the TV. And the next week, the house was listed for sale. I'm just serious. Years ago, Matt was diagnosed with ALS. This is Matt and I. ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, paralyzes the body, but nothing happens to the brain. He made it really clear after his diagnosis that he wasn't going to go away, that we should always talk to him as if he's there, because he is. He was still the smartest guy in the room, and he still said he's the funniest guy in the room, arguably, depending whether or not I was there. But once he got the diagnosis, he knew he was going to die because ALS is a fatal disease. In a real sense, though, that's when he started to live. He was incredibly resilient. He made a list of all the things he wanted to do. He traveled the world, he played golf, he volunteered. He got involved in people's lives. He made people feel seen for who they are. And he made it a point to be with people and experience what it's like to have a relationship where you hear each other and say the things you've always wanted to say that sometimes we never take the time to say because we never get around to it or because time runs out. Matt said knowing that he had ALS fast-forwarded his life. He wasn't sure how much time he'd have, so he set out to do all the things he always wanted to do and say all the things he always wanted to say, especially "I love you." That meant so much to me because I love Matt. I didn't typically say "I love you" to my friends. It's just kind of an unspoken thing. But with Matt, not only did we say "I love you" to each other, but to all of us in his chosen extended family. Like our fraternity brothers, we all started saying "I love you" to each other as well. It's kind of sad that maybe it took something like ALS for us to bring out the openness of expression. But we're so thankful we had the opportunity to live with Matt as long as we did, and for us to still continue to live his legacy now, his legacy of love and resilience. When you're diagnosed with ALS, typically the diagnosis gives you about 3 years to live. Then you're given a choice, life support or moving on from this world. Matt chose life. And the reason he chose life is love. With his girlfriend from when he was a child in middle school named Shartrina. They'd gone their separate paths in lives and then reconnected after he was diagnosed with ALS. She flew down from Chicago to Florida, where Matt was living. They fell back in love. She quit her job. She married Matt and became his full-time caretaker. Matt and Shartrina did not celebrate anniversaries. They celebrated month-anniversaries. I've never seen a love story like I've seen between Matt and Shartrina. She let go of her entire world to join his world. And one thing that really defined the resilience of Matt is they had different milestones throughout the progression of the disease. So eventually he would stop walking. Eventually he stopped being able to talk or even breathe on his own. But every time they reached a different milestone, where most of us would just give up, he would simply look at Shartrina and say, "Okay, what's next?" He took every day as they came, and he looked at every day as a gift to be able to express love, to live with resilience, and to be able to share the moments of life he had with his wife and his loved ones. Eventually he stopped talking, and eventually he stopped moving, and all he could do was blink his eye, and later just move his pupil. And to communicate, they came up with a chart. This is the actual chart that Shatrina and Matt came up with to help communicate with the tiniest of movements. If you wanted to spell something, we would just count down the number of lines until we got to that line and the letter in it. And then he would start calling off the letter A, B, C. And then when he got to C, if that's what the letter he wanted, he'd just blink his eye. And we'd write it down and start spelling out words, playing a huge game of autofill. Basically, just starting to figure out what he was trying to say. Now, most people would be really frustrated by this mode of communication, but to us, it was such a blessing that we still had the opportunity to communicate with Matt. Matt taught me what it is to be resilient. He didn't let ALS define him. He took it as an opportunity to finally do all the things he wanted to do, to say all the things he wanted to say. And I asked him one time, if you had to give one piece of advice to the world, what's the one thing you would leave as a message to everybody? And this is what he said to me. Now, it took him a long time for him to convey this, but the message is this: never let the person you're with feel that you have something more important to do. I try to live by these words. Those words are so vital nowadays. Think about the people you're connected with. Think about the people who, when you're with them, they make you feel seen for who you are. Through their love, they bring out the best version of yourself. When you're with someone, you can set our phones down and be present, because this is the moment that we have together. And Matt practiced love by embracing the reality of every moment with grace. He lived for 12 years with ALS. He lived with ALS. I had a lot of conversations with him, and he made sure that I knew that he was happy. He was grateful for every day. He didn't die of ALS. He lived with ALS every single day until the day he died. Now, I want to make something clear. It's not that Matt and Shatrina's love made everything perfect, but their love fueled and strengthened their resilience. Matt was and continues to be an inspiration for me. My life is not always fun and games. I try to find the funny in everyday life, but I struggle. I struggle with depression, with stress, and with downtime, just like a lot of us do. But being witness to and sharing in Matt's experience helped me to reframe how I look at my life, how I look at others, how I cherish relationships. Matt's resilience helped me push through my own challenges and to help me find my own resilience. I worked at a camp in Texas called the Texas Lions Camp for Handicapped Children. And it's a camp where kids had physical handicaps. Some of the kids, though, at this camp happened to be deaf, and I knew sign language at the time. I still know a little bit of sign language, but I'm kind of rusty. But at the time, I was pretty fluent. And so the first day at camp, all the kids are dropped off and the parents leave, and we have breakfast. And we have breakfast in our cabins because some of the kids have physical limitations that, don't allow them to get around real easily. So we're sitting there in the cabin eating breakfast, and there's a kid across the table from me. Now, understand, I don't know the kids yet. Like, we just got to camp. And the kid sitting across the table from me, his name was Benny. He had bright orange hair, he had freckles, and he had one arm. If you know anything about sign language, you need two arms. But he doesn't, because he doesn't have a choice. So to him, that's normal. It's the first day at camp. You can have anything you want for breakfast. Benny chooses one of those little tiny boxes of Rice Krispies. You know, the little ones that are so small, it's ridiculous. It just snap and crackle because there's no room for pop. And so he tries to open the box and he can't do it because he only has one arm. And I can't help him. The rule of the camp, Liz, if you're a counselor, is don't do for these children if they can do for themselves. Let them try. And if they fail, at least they accomplish failure on their own. So learn the lesson from it, celebrate it, and allow them to succeed on their own. So I'm watching him. He doesn't know that I'm watching. He doesn't even know me. We don't have a relationship at this point. And so I'm watching, and he can't get the box open. So he goes over to the bagel bar where they have bagels and cream cheese and plastic knives. He takes the knife, comes back to the table, and starts stabbing the Rice Krispie box to get it open. And the box starts sliding across the table. And the knife won't even puncture the cardboard because the knife is made out of Kleenex and Twinkies and oxygen and Spam. And then he takes like 6 knives, and now he goes to town. He starts obliterating the Rice Krispie box. And I'm sitting there, I feel bad for Snap and Crackle because the kid is becoming a serial killer. Thank you. And so finally he gets the box open. He is so happy. He has sweat beating up on his forehead. He takes the Rice Krispies, pours it into the bowl. I'm watching this. I can't stop staring. I notice the kid next to him is also watching. His name is Adam. Adam's 4.5 years old. Adam's partially paralyzed in both arms. He is not even thinking about how he's going to open his breakfast. He is fixated on watching Benny go through this whole shenanigans. He's just watching every single move. Benny takes the Rice Krispies, pours the cereal into the bowl, pours the milk into the cereal, and then out of nowhere takes the entire bowl of Rice Krispies and slides it in front of Adam. And he sets it down, and he takes a spoon, and he starts feeding him every single bite of the Rice Krispies. He did not share the bowl of Rice Krispies. He gave the bowl of Rice Krispies. There are people in the world that share, and then there's you, people in the world that give. He gave the entire thing away. And then he took a napkin and he wiped his mouth and he gave him a hug, and then he reached for a new box and started opening that one for himself. And as I sat there, I realized the most inspirational thing to me was he never made eye contact with me. He wasn't doing it for recognition. He didn't want to be the kid of the day. He didn't want the trophy or the t-shirt or the sticker. He did it because he wanted to. He wasn't going to let his physical limitations, much like Matt, define who he is. Being at that camp was an incredibly uplifting experience for me, to acknowledge and live with the differences of others. I do a lot of work with a program called Best Buddies. Best Buddies is a program in schools where they pair young people that have intellectual disabilities with other kids that do not, so that that young person has a friend or a buddy throughout the school year. A lot of times the kids have Down syndrome, but not always, and it is an incredible program of love and compassion. They also have a campaign called Spread the Word to End the Word, all about not using the R word in the way we refer to each other in any derogatory way. That campaign has made a huge difference in the world because of people like you, people that take a stand for what is different than themselves, that have compassion. I was in an airport one time and there was a gentleman on the phone and he was obscenely loud, like he was just screaming on the phone. And I don't think he was aware of how loud he was. He wasn't upset. He was just on the phone, just yelling like crazy. And all of us sitting around him, we're kind of laughing because he's just totally unaware of himself. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have some fun here. I'm going to sit next to this guy. I'm going to pretend to be on my phone. And I'm going to be the other half of his telephone conversation. So every time he says something, I'm going to say something back in response to him, the same volume level that he is. So he's on the phone, he's yelling, I sit down next to him. You know what? I talked to Jessica yesterday. I said, I love Jessica. And he turns to me and goes, buddy, calm down. I'm on the phone. I'm like, oh my gosh. And he goes, she said she'd come over tonight and make us some dinner. So you think about what you like to eat. And I said, you know, I love me some spaghetti. And at this point, he starts putting it together as to what's going on. And he says, honey, I think this guy sitting next to me is having the same type of telephone conversation I'm having right now. And I said, me too. I was just thinking the exact same thing. He goes, okay, sweetheart, I think I'll just call you back later when I have a little bit more privacy. And I'm like, all right, I love you. I love you too. And that's how we got engaged. But then he continued to make another phone call where the gentleman he was talking to, he kept using this R word. And I thought, I have to say something. I have to stand up and, take a stand, right? So when he hangs up the phone, I started talking to him. Hey, where are you from? Where are you going? What are you doing? And we had a great conversation going back and forth. And I told him about what I do, that I get to travel around the United States, that I get to speak in different groups. He goes, do you really know Jessica? I was like, yeah, I'm having spaghetti with her tomorrow. And so as we start talking at the end of the conversation, he looks at me and goes, well, I'm really glad we had a chance to talk. And we shook hands. And I said, well, yeah, the only reason though I started talking to you is because a second ago you were on the phone, you kept using this R word. And I just wanted to speak up on behalf of people that can't speak for themselves and just ask you if you could use a different word, that would be so appreciated. And he looks at me and goes, oh man, I am so embarrassed right now. I was like, no, you don't have to be embarrassed. He goes, no, I promise you I'm not that guy. I was like, no, I get it. He goes, no, I'm going to commit to you right now that I can use a different word. I was like, well, that is awesome. That was astonishing to me in a beautiful way to see that man express an intention to change. I know that the reason he heard what I had to say and respected it and appreciated it was because I spoke from a place of love and humility and compassion. I could have taken it upon myself to scold him, to be indignant and say, you should never use that word, that's terrible. But that wouldn't work, it never does. When we have something to say, especially when there's a passion behind it, it makes all the difference to take a breath and to make sure that we speak through love. I thought I would end this program by sharing with you a special poem that I wrote many years ago, 1992. It came to me in a dream. I'd never written a poem before. I'm not a poet. I don't write poetry now. But this poem, I think, encapsulates exactly what you're all about and what we all represent as one. And nowadays, more than ever, it's so important. It goes like this. It's amazing in this world today that's filled with love and hate. What separates the common one from the one who is truly great? For it's not the money in your bank account or the stuff in your backyard. It is instead what you share from inside of your loving, compassionate heart. You do not choose your color of skin. You don't choose to be born rich or poor. You don't choose to be deaf or blind, wishing you had something more. You don't choose with whom you fall in love. You don't choose to be born woman or man. You don't choose your family at birth. It's all part of a much larger plan. And although for some it's hard to relate to the differences that others endure, keep in mind there are certain choices that make you shallow or pure. You do choose to love or hate. You do choose to follow or lead. You do choose to embrace or ignore others in their time of need. Some things in life you cannot change, but your attitude can change. It's true. And by doing so, you can affect the people who look up to you. The meaning of life is the greatest mystery of all, but the answer is easily found. It's unconditional love for all humankind who walk in our common ground. That poem means a lot to me. I hope it means something to you. So Trina made a good point. We were talking about the poem that when I rewrite it, when I republish it, I'm changing that last line to be not it's unconditional love for all humankind, but it's unconditional love for all living beings who walk in our common ground. If you're a staff member, volunteer, or supporter of Luvin Arms, you understand the real tangible difference we make through our choices as consumers. And to further the mission of Luvin Arms, to promote compassion for all living things, we have to live with, to speak with, and to act with compassion ourselves, for others. Luvin Arms as a sanctuary is not just a place. It is loving compassion in action. We strengthen compassion through bonds and connections. We feel the power of our close, long-term relationships, but our fleeting connections also have lasting impacts. Anytime we speak and act with love, that energy extends both outward and inward and literally changes the world. Thank you for being part of that. Thank you for your commitment to loving kindness. Thank you for all you do to increase awareness and to reduce the suffering of as many beings as possible. Thank you for choosing compassion. Thank you for choosing to love.
All right. Let's